tension. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Forward. Yeah, great. Thank you. So, the issue was about tension, at the work of Frei Otto. Tension and stresses were indeed played a key role in Frei Otto's work and thought. He was an insightful observer, as you know, of the forms of life and their generating forces, tension, force. He has generally been considered as a visionary genius, as an exceptional innovative architect, difficult to classify, to put in context, or to be compared with his contemporary professional peers. Should he really be considered, this is a question I wonder, as a visionary, as an isolated phenomenon? Can't we trace any precedents or identify similar approaches to life and design? Can't his work or contributions be considered as part of a human heritage with a wider and more comprehensive scope? When seen from abroad, this is my case, come from Spain, from the distance of a foreign country, it seems easier to recognize a continuous thread or a common ground, providing hints to better understand his work. In the second part, I intend to sketch briefly, extremely briefly, an itinerary from Goethe to Frei Otto via some figures like Froebel, Albers, or Klee, which I hope can help to set in context and understand better Frei Otto's work. Which connections can we find between Goethe and Frei Otto? Goethe was a great humanist and universal man who experienced a deep need to know nature and to investigate the laws of form, formations, and transformations of animate and inanimate objects with a global and multidisciplinary approach, covering very different fields such as botany, zoology, anatomy, mineralogy, geology, meteorology. These vital attitudes can also be recognized in the work of Frei Otto, who brought together a select group of highly qualified specialists from such disparate fields as biology, engineering, paleontology, philosophy, physics, geodesy, and history. Goethe expressed the need to develop a new science, which he called morphology, a sort of theory of comparative form, which would adopt form as the common unifying principle and focus of attention in nature as well as in art and science. For Goethe, as for Frei Otto, every form implies a force, and this led him to investigate the presence and quality of the forces behind the forms and the relationship between form and force. Friedrich Froebel, the German pedagogue linked to Freilich Wright and other pioneers of modern art and architecture, is also a significant figure in our itinerary to set in context Frei Otto's work. In Froebel's approach to education, practical and physical experimentation and observation of natural forms and phenomena played a key role. One of his goals was to open eyes to see beyond appearances. He considered education as a process of growth from an inner germ rather than injecting preset knowledge from outside inwards. His experience in the field of crystallography at the Museum of Mineralogy in Berlin must have had a decisive influence on his educational approach and his view of form. He saw in crystals geometrical forms, an external manifestation of the internal structure of particles arranged in three-dimensional networks, and therefore a possibility of seeing the inside through the outside and perceiving that the outside comes from the essence of the inside. He also found in forces and stresses reasons explaining forms. The structure and form of each thing are always found to rest ultimately upon the nature of force. This is his quotes in his writing, underlying and highlighting this idea. He devised educational games to develop a pedagogy form based on the physical contact of the hands with a specific material and on the basic elements of geometry, the point, the line, the plane, and the solid. Joseph Albers was one of those artists educated with Froebel's pedagogy. A Bauhaus teacher and also a primary school teacher at the beginning of his career, some of the basic principles in his teaching were personal experiencing, playing, and learning through discovery. His goal was to develop creativity by exploring potential new forms and materials properties through experimentation. He exposed his students to unusual building materials, taken from everyday objects, such as straw, corrugated cardboard, wire mesh, newspapers, etc. This emphasis on the process of searching can easily be matched with Frei Otto's marvelous capacity to discover the unknown and the unheard of in the everyday, the extraordinary in the ordinary, in the most common natural phenomena. Albers also highlighted in his exercises optimal use of materials with minimum waste, testing the strength in tension, compression, or bending, and thereby exploring the connection between form and force. This approach leads to another goal in Frei Otto's work, likeness, and also to his experimental methodology. It is, in short, a concept of form that is not imposed, but found as a result of a searching process. As I heard one time, Frei Otto said, the figure isn't modeled according to a predetermined or desired form. The figure is extracted from the unknown. Paul Klee was a colleague of Albers, as a teacher also at the Bauhaus, who tried to unveil the order of the inner structure of form. In his pedagogic writings for his Bauhaus lessons, form is considered as the outcome of a dynamic generating process, whose starting point is the basic elements of geometry, the point, the line, the plane, and the solid. Shaping is linked to movement. This statement sums up his endeavor to identify vectors, focal points, axes, and mainstreams, revealing the keys to visual dynamics and geometric stresses active in the genesis of form. Frei Otto was a great explorer of stresses and forms. He was definitely not the first one to feel that driving force or vital impulse. We cannot help recalling universal and multidisciplinary attitudes of figures like Goethe or Froebel, transcending the ordinary, maintaining the capacity for surprise, and giving, as Novalis said, the known, the dignity of the unknown. Thank you for your attention.